What kind of man becomes so feared that entire cities surrender without a fight? Simply because they hear his name? And what if the greatest conqueror in history died in a way so mysterious that 800 years later, nobody knows exactly what happened? His enemies called him a monster. His followers called him chosen by heaven. History remembers him as Genghis Khan, the man who built the largest contiguous empire the world has ever seen. A conqueror whose armies thundered across continents, whose enemies trembled at rumors of his approach, and whose death remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. But before he became a legend, he was just a hungry boy abandoned on the harsh Mongolian steppe. Around 1162, a child named Temujin was born beneath the endless skies of Mongolia. The world he entered was brutal. Life was a constant struggle for survival. Tribes fought endlessly. Betrayal was common. Death could come from starvation, war, or the bitter cold. When Temujin was still a young boy, disaster struck. His father, a tribal leader, was poisoned by rivals. Overnight, everything changed. Without his father's protection, his family became vulnerable. Their own tribe abandoned them. Friends disappeared. Food became scarce. The young boy who would one day command millions found himself hunting rats and gathering roots simply to survive. Many children would have broken under such hardship. Temujin did something different. He adapted. And perhaps that is where the legend truly began. As he grew older, the betrayals continued. At one point, he was captured by a rival tribe. Locked in a wooden collar, humiliated, powerless. Most people would have accepted their fate. Temujin escaped, and that escape changed history. Because from that moment forward, he developed a ruthless understanding of loyalty and power. He never forgot who stood beside him during hardship, and he never forgave those who betrayed him. Slowly, he began gathering followers. Not because he was born into power, because he earned it. Unlike many leaders of his time, Temujin often promoted people based on ability rather than noble birth. A shepherd could become a general. A common warrior could rise to prominence. In a world ruled by family connections and inherited status, this was revolutionary. People followed him because they believed they had a future under his leadership. Others followed because they feared what happened to those who opposed him. Soon, small victories became larger ones. Alliances formed, enemies fell, and one by one, the scattered tribes of Mongolia began uniting. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1206, after years of warfare, Temujin achieved what many believed impossible. He united the Mongol tribes. The leaders gathered and gave him a new title, Genghis Khan. The meaning is debated, but many interpret it as a universal ruler, or oceanic ruler. The world had just met one of history's most dangerous men. At first, neighboring kingdoms underestimated him. After all, what threat could a collection of horse-riding nomads pose to mighty civilizations? That mistake would cost millions of lives. The Mongol army moved unlike any force the world had seen. They were fast, disciplined, merciless. A Mongol warrior could ride enormous distances in days. They communicated efficiently, adapted quickly, and mastered psychological warfare centuries before the term existed. Sometimes entire cities surrendered before a single battle began. Why? Because stories spread ahead of the Mongols. Stories of annihilation. Stories of cities erased from existence. Stories of armies completely destroyed. Whether every story was true hardly mattered. Fear became one of Genghis Khan's most powerful weapons. Then came the event that unleashed his full fury. A trade caravan sent by Genghis Khan arrived in the powerful Khwarezmian Empire. The merchants expected business. Instead, they were accused of spying and executed. When Genghis Khan demanded justice, the ruler made an even greater mistake. He executed the diplomats sent to negotiate. Throughout history, killing messengers has rarely ended well. For the Khwarezmian Empire, it proved catastrophic. Genghis Khan launched one of the most devastating military campaigns ever recorded. His armies swept across Central Asia like a storm. City after city fell. Ancient centers of culture vanished. Massive armies were defeated. Entire populations fled in terror. Within a few years, one of the most powerful empires in the region had effectively ceased to exist. And Genghis Khan wasn't finished. His empire expanded across China, into Persia, toward Eastern Europe. The scale was almost unimaginable. At its height, the Mongol Empire stretched across vast portions of Asia and Europe. Messengers could travel thousands of miles through territory controlled by a single ruler. Trade routes flourished, ideas spread, cultures mixed. But the empire's growth came at an extraordinary human cost. Some historians estimate that millions died during Mongol conquests. Exact numbers remain debated. But there is little doubt that entire regions were transformed forever. To some, Genghis Khan was history's greatest destroyer. To others, he was a visionary leader who connected civilizations and reshaped global trade. Perhaps he was both. And that complexity is what makes him so fascinating. Because history's most powerful figures are rarely simple heroes or villains. Then came the final chapter. The greatest conqueror on Earth was aging. Yet even in his 60s, Genghis Khan continued campaigning. Still fighting, still expanding his empire, still feared across continents. In 1227, during a campaign against the Western Xia Kingdom, something happened. And suddenly, the most powerful man in the world was dead. But nobody agrees on exactly how. This is where the mystery begins. Some accounts claim he fell from a horse during a hunt and suffered fatal injuries. Others suggest illness, a fever, exhaustion, natural causes. Then darker stories emerged. One legend claims he was assassinated. Another claims a captured princess killed him during captivity. Some versions say she concealed a weapon and took revenge for her people. It's dramatic, memorable, and likely impossible to verify. The truth is that reliable records are surprisingly scarce. The Mongols kept his death secret for a period of time, partly to avoid weakening morale, partly to maintain military momentum. The secrecy created fertile ground for speculation, and speculation became legend. But the mystery doesn't end there, because after Genghis Khan died, his body vanished. According to tradition, his burial site was hidden intentionally. Some stories claim soldiers killed anyone who witnessed the funeral procession. Others say horses trampled the ground to erase evidence. Another legend claims a river was diverted over the grave. The details vary. Yet one fact remains astonishing. To this day, nobody knows for certain where Genghis Khan is buried. Think about that. The most powerful conqueror of the medieval world. The ruler of the largest contiguous empire in history. A man whose armies reshaped continents. And his final resting place remains one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries. Modern researchers have searched for decades. Satellite technology, ground surveys, scientific expeditions, still no confirmed discovery. It's as if history itself decided to hide him forever. Perhaps that's fitting, because Genghis Khan spent his life appearing where nobody expected him, changing the course of history without warning. And then, just as suddenly, he disappeared. Yet his legacy never did. Today, millions of people can trace ancestry back to him. His empire transformed trade routes, influenced nations, connected distant civilizations, and changed the shape of the world we live in today. Some see him as a ruthless conqueror, others as a brilliant strategist. Many see him as both. But maybe the most fascinating thing about Genghis Khan isn't how he lived. It's how he died. A man who dominated history, yet left behind a mystery no one can solve. A conqueror who commanded vast armies, yet escaped even the grasp of historians. And perhaps that's the final victory of Genghis Khan. 8 centuries later, the world still searches for answers, still debates his story, still wonders where he lies buried beneath the endless grasslands of Mongolia. And maybe that's the question worth asking. If the tomb of the most feared conqueror in history were discovered tomorrow, what secrets would it reveal? And what if some mysteries are buried for a reason? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Your Highness.